Hey, it's Brandon. Welcome to Transform Your Workplace. This episode is brought to you by Xenium HR. Xenium is supporting small and medium-sized organizations for their HR, their payroll, their benefits, training and development, compensation strategy, and so much more. Learn more about Xenium at xeniumhr.com. Okay, I'm really excited for today's episode. You're going to love it. Andy Storch, he is the author of the brand new book, Own Your Career, Own Your Life, Stop Drifting and Take Control of Your Future. And I know this topic is a little different. We don't do a lot of self-help on here, but I think it's really important not only to develop us individually and learn and grow and take ownership of our careers and all that, but I think because a lot of us are people leaders, this type of content is great to either coach or mentor other people in owning their careers and growing and developing. So I love to mix up these topics. You're going to love this. Andy is a fantastic human being. He's built a great community. So make sure to follow him on LinkedIn, follow him on Instagram. He's got a great following there. He puts out a lot of great stuff into the universe, and I just appreciate him for his positivity and he's a great role model. So you're going to love what he has to say. Enjoy the episode. I'll talk to you next week. Andy, it is a pleasure to have you on the podcast. Thanks for coming on, man.
Brandon, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited. I feel like this has been a long time coming since you and I first connected, and I cannot wait to have this conversation with you.
Yeah, when we first connected, you were in the middle of writing your book, and now you're done. So your book is Own Your Career, Own Your Life, Stop Drifting, and Take Control of Your Future. And one of the first things that stuck out to me in reading your book was that you wanted to be a professional baseball player. That was your dream growing up. Where'd that come from?
That's right. Yeah. I mean, just grew up being really big into sports, baseball and college football especially. And I just watched baseball every day. I grew up in Orlando, Florida. And of course, we didn't have any baseball teams down here back then. So I was a big Cubs fan because the Cubs and the Braves were on TV every day. The Cubs were on WGN, the Superstation, and the Braves were on TBS. And of course, you grew up a Braves fan, right?
Grew up a Braves fan and also wanted to be a professional baseball player. So that's why that segment in your book just stuck out to me. And I thought it really set the stage for like owning your career, owning your life, because I think you even said your dream was kind of cut short when you realized, I'm not going to work very hard. I was just going through the motions. You were just doing the bare minimum, I think, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, many people have we have dreams and things that we may want to achieve or may want to be. And by the way, spoiler alert, you and I neither of us are professional baseball players right now.
No,
not even close. And I think I even mentioned in the book that it's never too late to chase down your dreams, with some exceptions. I'm 40 years old. There's pretty much zero chance that I will be a professional baseball player.
And I'm 35 and 5'10", and I don't think many 5'10" pitchers are making it to the big leagues.
But going back to Little League Baseball, when that was my dream, I was practicing when the coach said to practice. I was going to the games, but I really wasn't that good. And if I truly desired that dream, that goal, I would have put more of a plan in place and, gone to my parents, gone to the coach and said, hey, what do I need to improve? This is my goal. How do I get there? But that never really happened. And I ended up quitting, I think, at the age of 15 when I got to high school. And, there's nothing wrong with that, right? A lot of kids go through that the same way. But I thought that would be a good way to kind of symbolize how we often approach things in life. And the people that we admire that go out and achieve their goals usually are taking risks, and they're putting more thought into their goals and their plans and taking consistent action to go out and achieve those things.
Yeah. Well, you wrote that a lot of employees, when they're searching for new jobs, but they're not even giving their current employer or career a fair shot before they just try to move on. So maybe elaborate on that point. What could they do instead?
Yeah. I mean, Brandon, you've worked a lot in HR. A lot of your audience worked in HR. They've probably seen this over and over again. And I work a lot in the talent development space. And I've had this conversation with so many L&D leaders who say, especially for early career professionals, the attrition rate is so high at the 2 to 3 year mark, because people get into a job and then they get a little bit bored or they get a little bit frustrated. And instead of having that conversation with their manager or taking the initiative to go and figure out what would make this job more challenging or exciting, or what other opportunities are inside my company, they just think, well, I'm unhappy, so I'm going to make a change, right? And it's so easy now to go out and look for other jobs on LinkedIn and social media and other ways that people are quick to jump. And then I think they're just starting the cycle all over again. And then what are they going to do a couple of years later? I want employees to really think about that and ask the right questions. Why are you maybe unhappy or bored, or what is missing? And sometimes for people, it could just be the commute. It could be their manager. It could be they just want more challenge. They want more opportunities, more learning opportunities. They want to just try, spend their time a little bit differently at work. And it could be as simple as having that conversation, or maybe even networking and looking for different opportunities inside their organization. A lot of people just aren't taking the initiative to do that.
Yeah, and that brings us to this whole point of owning your career, right? For one, what does owning your career really mean in your mind? And what should people be doing?
The idea, and I have been working in corporate consulting for nearly a decade, and I've worked with executives and managers from different companies, industries all over the world. It's really been a privilege, and it's been so fun. And I've noticed just a lot of people really drifting in their careers. They're operating in reaction mode, waiting for their boss, their manager, or colleagues, someone else to tell them what to do, maybe even their parents to tell them what to do or what their next move should be, right? Those people. And I want people to take more ownership. And taking ownership means taking full responsibility. It means taking initiative. It means treating your career like it's your business. And so you're not waiting for other people. And when things happen, you're not saying, oh, well, I can't do this or I can't do that because of this or other. Taking full responsibility and saying, okay, I'm responsible for my career. Nobody cares more about my career than I do. So I'm going to find a way to be more engaged, to find more fulfilling work, to do the thing that I love to do. If I like the work I'm doing and I want to get promoted, I'm going to initiate that conversation. I'm not going to wait for my busy manager who is, seemingly always unavailable or just doesn't really take the time to have these coaching conversations, to initiate that conversation and ask if we can sit down and talk about where I want to go. And that's the other thing I heard with, talking with all these talent development professionals, that a lot of times, the employees aren't getting what they need. Well, the managers are frustrated too, because they don't know what their employees want. And so they feel like they can't give them the right coaching or advice.
Sounds like a lack of communication between those two parties.
Exactly. It's really a sitting down and having the conversation. I want people to be willing to take more initiative. And it's not always easy. I've had those tough managers over the years. And sometimes I brought up the conversation and said, I'd like to do something different. And I got shot down. But at least I had that conversation. I tried. And then when I saw that it wasn't going to work out, then I moved on and found another job.
I think the challenge for a lot of employees is that they don't know what they want necessarily. They've been probably, as you say, drifting through life without really knowing what they want. They're just, other people are dictating what they need to do, especially at work and a lot of times in life too. Do you see that a lot with a lot of people? They just sort of look to other people for the answers.
Oh, definitely. And a lot of us start out that way, right? We choose our majors in college because our parents tell us that's the thing we need to do, or a friend recommends it. That's what I did, and that's what a lot of people do. And then we get our first job accidentally, because somebody recommends it or whatever. That stuff happens. So there's no judgment for that. This is about starting to really reflect and think about where you want to go with your career now. And that's it takes a lot of self-reflection, thinking about, who you are, what you enjoy doing, your strengths, your weaknesses, your passion, your purpose, your values, what you care about, your priorities, where and how you want to spend your time. Getting some suggestions and feedback from people around you, colleagues, friends, maybe a manager, maybe family, and other people, and putting that all together and then starting to design a career and a life that you want, which means, setting a vision for where you want to go. And it doesn't have to be exact. It doesn't have to be concrete. It can change over time. It almost always does. But setting that vision for where you want to go and having that vision can help really guide you when those difficult opportunities or challenges or situations come up and you have to make a decision. Then you at least kind of know where you're going, and it's easier to make that decision. And then it's things like connecting to your purpose, understanding your values, making a plan, setting goals, and then taking action on those goals and just making progress and moving in a certain direction with intention, I think sets people apart from most of the rest.
Yeah, I think that's the key word is intention.
Mm-hmm.
This work is intentional, and I think it's why a lot of people don't do it. It's hard work to map out your goals and understand what your purpose is, and I think this is why a lot of people don't do it. But the alternative is this, and this punched me right in the stomach. So you shared a little quote from a book, Top 5 Regrets of the Dying. The number one regret that you wrote in the book was that people say, I don't know if they're dying or about to die or they're just at the end of their life. And they say, I wish I had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me.
Huge, isn't it?
It's true. I mean, we drift through life either working for somebody else, and there's nothing wrong with that. We're working for somebody else, but they dictate everything that we're doing. Maybe even at home, our family members are dictating what we do and the decisions we make. And there's a lot of intention that we should be taking into our lives to gain control.
Yeah, that is a big one, and that came from real data from a woman who interviewed a bunch of people on their deathbeds. The other quote that always gives me chills, I think I put in there too, that I first heard from my friend Dominic Cortuccio. He said that the definition of hell is reaching the end of your life and meeting the man or the woman that you could have become if you had fulfilled your true potential, if you had gone for it, right, and tried to do the things that you wanted to do.
Wow.
That one always gets me too.
That gave me chills.
It's interesting. And I think about that every time I'm thinking about taking a chance or trying something new. And these don't have to be big things. It's just about living life true to yourself. And that also might be, by the way, not even necessarily making big changes to the things you're doing in your career. It could just be a simple mindset shift from the victim mindset of, I'm waiting for people to tell me what to do. I can't make any changes. I have to go to this job, to one of ownership, which is I'm choosing to do this. And here's why, right? I'm choosing to go to this job because it pays me enough money to provide for my family. And what I really care about is, being able to have a nice house and a car and whatever it may be. But, I think people have more freedom than they give themselves credit for. And so many people think like, I have to do this, I have to do that. I always ask people, like, people tell me like, oh, I've got this long commute. Well, this is the old days before COVID. I've got this long commute I hate, or I have no time to do this or that. And I'll be like, why? Like, why do you have to go to that job? Well, it's my job. But you don't have to, right? Nobody's making you go there. There's a reason why you show up every day. It's either because you like it, or the money's better than anywhere else, or you're just afraid to go try to do something else. And just be honest about your situation and why you're doing certain things. And then that can help guide you to, am I good with this, or do I want to make some changes? And if so, why?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that point you just made about like the guide. I think like when you have values that are core to your being, or a documented purpose, I think it makes it a lot easier to make decisions, take action, align your entire work and personal life around those things. In your experience in talking with people, do people have documented purposes or value statements?
Most people don't, and that's okay. It's hard. It's hard to do.
It's hard.
I've done the work, and I've been in a couple of workshops. I remember once I was at a conference and someone was giving a presentation on purpose, and then they said, does anybody here have a purpose they've written down? And I looked around the room, and I did. And I was like, could I
You did
speak up?
Oh, no way.
So I did. And everyone was like, wow, this guy has a purpose. That's amazing. We might all have something deep down that we don't know, but I think it's useful to do the work. The values exercise is really cool. And I've done this a few times, and there's lots of these out there on the internet. You can go out and Google it and find one. The interesting thing you find out when you do a values exercise is what you truly care about and what you prioritize over other things, right? So yeah, we all care about, let's say we all care about making money and we care about family, but which one's more important at the end of the day, right? Or the classic example I think I gave in the book is socializing and health and fitness, right? Yeah, both of those things are important. But when you get to the end of the workday and you're planning on going to the gym and your friends invite you to happy hour, what do you choose? And there's no wrong answer, but that actually informs what is more important to you. And when you know what's more important to you, you can be honest about that, and it helps guide the decisions you make and, even the career that you choose.
In going to some gyms, I will say, I think some people align fitness and social hour around the same
Yeah.
thing. I can't stand when people are just mingling around machines. Drives me crazy.
I go to the YMCA, which is such a community. And there's like it's cool though because you see people like their 80s that aren't even hardly working out anymore, but
Oh yeah,
they're just there every day talking to each other. It's great.
it is the best. So, what is your purpose? Since you're not gonna just skate on
Oh,
through that, you're gonna have to stand up just like you did in
yeah.
that one room and tell us what your purpose
Well,
is.
Brandon, my life's purpose is to love and support my family. To
Oh, you don't have to have it like memorized verbatim, but
My purpose is to love and support my family. To continue to learn and grow on a regular basis. To inspire thousands of people to live life more intentionally and to add value to the world.
and what's interesting about that is you're doing that. And I mean, I know you well enough from afar and in conversations I've had with you, you are doing that. And it comes through in everything that you do, your podcast, your book, your workshops, your Instagram. Like I follow you religiously on
Yeah.
Instagram. And I mean, you get a lot of inspirational stuff there, but like you're living that life. And it is like having a purpose statement like that is a realignment, whether it's for you or just for other people too, to see like, wow, this guy, he's got his purpose and he's living it the way he intended.
Yeah, thank you. I think it's important, and I appreciate that. And I try to be really authentic to that, including what I show off on social media. And I appreciate that. I follow you on Instagram as well, and I see some of your family life. But I'm big on in the Own Your Life section of the book. I talk about some added things that can help you achieve your goals, and I talk about using affirmations. And I recite my purpose every single morning, 7 days a week. And it reminds me of what it is. And usually when I recite my purpose and my mission, by the way, is to fulfill my true potential and inspire others to do the same. When I recite my purpose and my mission and my goals, it reminds me every time of what those things are. And sometimes things stick out where I'm like, oh, I haven't been doing that. Or, I haven't been living that way. Or I haven't been, making progress towards this goal, whatever it may be. So maybe I need to take some action on that. And it's, whether you recite them as affirmations or write them down daily or weekly, it's one thing to put down goals, but we've got to be able to check in with them on a regular basis to see, am I living that? One of the reasons I got this book done was because I put down January 1st and I'm going to write and publish a book in 2020. And I recited it every day while I was working on it. And, I got to October and I was like, okay, man, we got to get this book done. I said I was going to publish it this year. And so we published it on November 16th. And I'm happy to say that I achieved that goal. It got a little rushed at the end, probably because I wanted to do that. But the plan came together nicely. And I was, glad and I feel good that I got that done.
Yeah, it's amazing what you can do when you keep your goals in front of you. Like you got it done and your launch has been outstanding. Like I just kind of been watching it, like the communication you've had, the amount of reviews you're getting. And I mean, that's a really good book launch I imagine you self-published it in a way.
For an amateur self-publishing, right?
No, it's a hell of a job. I mean, I see a lot of authors maybe get 5 to 10 reviews at launch date on Amazon, and you have like 90 the last time I saw.
Well,
It's incredible.
I practiced what I preach in the book. So when in the book, I talk about in the middle section, preparing for the future and setting yourself up for success to achieve any goals that you want to achieve. You've got to invest in learning, in continuous learning, in educating yourself on the things that you want to get to. So that could be reading books, listening to podcasts like this one, taking online courses, going to formal education. So when I went to publish the book, I went and took a course from a woman who has published over 50 books and learned everything I could about how to successfully publish a book, right? And then in the book, I also talk about, once you do the learning, the importance of building a network and building a personal brand to help set yourself up for success. I've been working on those things for the last, 15 years, really. And they have helped me with this launch, having that big network, having friends everywhere who were excited to support me because I've been supporting them, giving to them as much as possible over the last decade or more. it was really cool to see people, jumping up to say, "Oh yeah, I'd love to support you," and buying the book and leaving reviews and posting about it on social media. It's been awesome. It's really been.
Yeah.
I'm so grateful for it. I almost like don't want to talk about it because I don't like want to seem like I'm bragging, but I'm putting it into practice, and I
No,
want
yeah.
people to
Yeah.
see that the value of building a network and giving to others is so powerful in helping you achieve your own goals, whatever you're trying to do.
I so agree with that. There's a quote in your book, not from you, but from somebody else. Everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth.
That's right.
Who's that quote from?
So that quote is from championship boxer Mike Tyson, and
What,
controversial championship boxer Mike Tyson.
right. What does that quote mean to you in context of this book?
Well, I love that quote. And by the way, I love the quote. I'm not necessarily endorsing the man. I put that quote once on LinkedIn and someone reached out to me and they're like, "Hey, you shouldn't quote Mike Tyson because
Like he bit somebody's ear off. Come on.
well, yeah, he was also accused of rape and many other things." So
yes.
not endorsing the man, but endorsing, but the quote I love because we can spend all this time making a plan and creating a vision, which I do talk about in the beginning of the book. But things are always going to change, right? Stuff is going to come up. Your company is going to change strategies. Your boss is going to leave. You're going to get laid off. A new opportunity is going to come along. Maybe a global pandemic is going to hit and completely shut industries down and change everything that we know about the working world, like it did in 2020. Like you just can't predict everything that's coming. So you've got to be thinking about the future and doing the things that are going to help set you up for success, and be willing and ready to pivot when things do come your way, because it's not ever going to go perfectly.
Yeah. And I think that's why you're a huge proponent of continuous learning. And I think that the learning, the education, the ongoing, it will help you adapt to when plans go awry, a health crisis comes into our lap and we have to shift what we're doing. You're a huge proponent of it. What have you done to make sure that you're always making time for continuous learning?
Yeah. So for me, it's definitely been really important, and everybody does this in different ways. For me, I'm a big reader of books. I love reading, so I make time every morning as part of my morning routine. Usually reading for 15, 20 minutes in the morning, as well as making time for writing and reflection as well. I listen to a lot of podcasts. I host podcasts. Hosting podcasts, by the way, as I'm sure you can attest to, allows for a ton of learning, because I get to interview so many people and talk to so many people, whether I'm hosting or going on other podcasts, and learn from them. I also spend time on LinkedIn every day, following experts and gurus and seeing what they're posting and talking about and learning from those people. There's a lot of different little ways. And then, of course, like I said, if I'm doing something big, I'm going to take a course and learn what I can. So the book, I took a course from Honore Corridor, who's published a ton of books. In September, I hosted a virtual summit, a talent development virtual summit. And before I put that together, I tracked down this guy named Mark Wade, who's hosted, hundreds of virtual summits and created software for it and everything. And I bought his course and I took his 3-day live. We did like a 7-day challenge thing and then a 3-day virtual workshop I went through with him, learned everything I could about virtual summits. And then my assistant and I put it together. And, by all accounts, it was pretty successful. We had nearly 2,000 people register. We had, 30 speakers over 5 days, 32 speakers over 5 days. And it was a lot of fun. And it went really well because we had invested in that learning, in that time to learn as much as we could before we went out there and did it.
Now, that's really fascinating to me, because I think there's a couple points that you're making throughout your book that like that moment right there, like dovetailed into a couple different sections. So continuous learning. You did a crash course on virtual events like that, but also just the network. How would you have even known where to go without, having maybe interviewed somebody on the podcast, or being aware, or being connected to somebody who's connected to somebody? Like, you laid all that groundwork down to be successful in this moment, right?
Yeah, very true. And that reminds me of another thing that I do to invest in continuous learning, which is I'm always in mastermind groups. So usually groups hosted by a coach who have other like-minded individuals, where we meet on a regular basis and have similar goals to grow a business or improve our life, whatever it may be. And that allows me to grow my network, and I get exposure to more people, more things. You get recommendations for more stuff. So getting to Mark Wade, who hosted the virtual summit, has the virtual summit platform. I heard about him from my friend Mike Kim, who has a podcast on personal brands. I follow him and have become good friends with him through other friends. He recommended it. And then I heard other people had used it and recommended him. And so that was good enough for me. I started following him and checking it out and, bought into the first course and the next course. Same with the book publishing. Honoré Corder is the woman who runs the course. I first heard about her because she has partnered with Hal Elrod on the Miracle Morning series. I heard her on a podcast years ago talking about how everybody needs to write a book. And I thought, one day I'm going to write a book and I'm going to hire her, to help me get it done. And when I finally had the idea a year ago, in November 2019, I reached out to her and said, here's my idea. What do you think? And she said, that sounds like a good idea. When are you going to come join my course? I'm like, cool. Well, I'm going to come join in a few weeks. And by the way, I had already established a friendship with her and recommended other people into her course before I'd even taken it, because I knew it was good. So I just knew that's where I needed to go. And I'm always trying to figure out, okay, what's the next thing? How much can I, how can I learn? And how can I learn from people who have done it before, right? When 5 years ago, I don't know if I knew any authors. Today I'm very lucky to have a network full of so many authors, friends who have written books, and I can call any of them and ask them questions. And I do, how did you do this with your book? How did you get this part done? As small as like, how did you get this on Amazon and get it approved or whatever it is? And that has helped me through the process, having that network.
Yeah. You, a little bit ago, you mentioned personal brand, and you get a section in your book about this. I'm a huge proponent of a personal brand. I know you are too. I think for most people, though, when they think about a personal brand, they're like, it's for sales and marketing people or entrepreneurs or famous people. I call BS on that completely. I know you do too, but give me the argument for why everybody should be focused on a personal brand at some level.
Yeah, I know you definitely get this because I see you out there building yours, Brandon. The argument is this, that whether you want to think about it or not, you already have a personal brand, because a personal brand is simply your reputation in the marketplace, right? So how you show up in the world and what people think about you, what they say about you when you're not around, that's your personal brand, that's your reputation. So we can be intentional with that in how we show up at work, how we interact with our colleagues, what kind of projects we take on, how friendly we are with people, how collaborative we are, whether we reach out and network with people outside of our group, as well as how we show up on social media and in the the outside world, outside of our companies, right? Do you post and comment on things on LinkedIn or Twitter or other social media platforms? That all builds your personal brand and your reputation, and it can be really beneficial down the line when you are applying for the next job, right? And inside your company or outside of your company, let's say you're going for a job or a project inside your company, and there are other people up against you for that same job. If you have a reputation as someone who is eager, hardworking, fun to work with, collaborative, versus another person who may be more experienced than you, but they're kind of grouchy and hard to get along with, you're going to have a better chance of getting that job, right? And as we move into more of, I think, a project-based, gig type economy down the line, that's going to become more and more important as people are vying for different projects. And the person with the better reputation, the better brand, is going to end up getting a lot of those projects. And the same thing when you're applying for external jobs. I talked to some of my friends who are recruiters and said, hey, when you go look at somebody's profile on LinkedIn, do you just look at their job history, or do you look to see if they've posted or shared any content? And they say, oh yeah, we've definitely looked to see what they've shared. That's essentially thought leadership, right? If you've been sharing articles or things related to HR or whatever it is, whatever, function or industry you work in, that shows that you have some expertise, some thought leadership, or at least a desire to continuously learn and grow and get better. And I think that can be an X factor for you when you go to apply for that next job.
Yeah, like even for people who are looking to make that leap from like maybe a manager level to like a leader inside the company, like the personal brand reinforces all of that. Like if they're posting inspirational stuff, they're saying something that's different, they're supportive of other people, and they're doing all that publicly and in their own way on social media or networking events, things like that. It reinforces that decision for leaders to say, you know what, they belong in a leadership position. They're going to be a great leader for this company because we've seen them do it time and time again. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. And, showcasing how you may show up as a leader, what you believe when it comes to leadership, or that you've been learning a lot about leadership. You're sharing articles or things you've been reading about leadership and what it means to be a good leader. And I think that starts with how you show up, even as an individual contributor. Because for me, and I've run a lot of leadership development workshops as well, and I've got a whole other book in my head, by the way, about leadership that I want to publish. In fact, I wrote the outline down before I published this book, and I had to stop myself. I'm like, no, you're not going to get started on another book before you publish this one.
Yeah.
But I think at its core, leaders enable people around them to get their jobs done or do their jobs better, right? So for a manager, it's your job to help your people get their jobs done and help the company, execute on its strategy, its goals. And even if you're an individual contributor, if you are enabling people around you to get their jobs done, if you're helping them, then you are being a great leader. And if you start doing that as an IC or a frontline manager, you start to build that reputation of someone who makes everyone around them better. And who doesn't want to work with someone like that?
Yeah. I want to get your reaction to something. If I or somebody inside of a company or in your personal life, they say, I don't have time for fill in the blank, going to the gym, reading books. What's your reaction to that?
Oh man, this is like such a pet peeve for me. I'm going to get on my high horse for a second here. Yeah, a lot of people say that all the time, right? That I don't have time to do to work on that project. I don't have time to do that extra work. I don't have time to go to the gym. Is such a common one. I want people to be honest about how and where they're spending their time, right? Do you really not have time, or are you prioritizing other things? Because we talked about earlier, people have a lot more freedom than they think or they give themselves credit for. You get to choose how you spend your time, right? So how much you work, how much time you spend with your family, how much time you spend watching TV. And a lot of people spend way more time than they think watching TV, playing video games, scrolling through social media on their phone, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. I do those things too, but it's being honest about how and where you're spending your time and then setting priorities to say, okay, well, I really want to make sure that I do invest in continuous learning and I do build a network and I do go to the gym. So I am going to build those things into my schedule and say that I am going to spend X number of hours per week on those things and hold myself accountable, maybe get somebody else to hold you accountable. The problem is a lot of people are just not honest with themselves and others about how they're spending their time. So, I talk about this in the book that if you get honest, and this is a tough shift to make, especially when you're honest with other people too, because it's not like the acceptable way to talk in our society. If someone says like, hey, can you come to my party? Or, and you say, oh, I can't make it. And the truth is not that you can't make it. It's I'm prioritizing something else over you, right? So be honest, at least with yourself. I didn't go to the gym because I prioritized doing work over it. I didn't, make it home for dinner with my spouse because I prioritized work. Or maybe it's the other way around. For me, I got so into health and fitness for a long time that I actually would sacrifice getting client work done or sales work done or extra work done so that I could go to the gym. And it probably cost me money. But, I was honest, that was a higher priority for me, right? And so that is what I was choosing at the time. So we all get to choose how we spend our time. And it's based on our values and our priorities. And when we're honest with ourselves, I think it helps us, realize where we're spending that time. And then you can start to make adjustments and say, if it is really important to me that I make it to the gym, then I am going to move some things around. Maybe I'm going to watch less Netflix, go to bed earlier, get up earlier to make sure I do that. Just like, I wanted to write a book. It took a lot of time to write this book. I already was running a business, 2 podcasts, had a family. So how do I make that happen? I prioritize it. And I set a goal and a habit to write every single morning. And so I wrote every morning between 6 and 7 a.m. before the kids were up. And I got it done that way. Otherwise, things just don't get done.
Yeah, but to a lot of people, you're probably an overnight success, right?
Oh my God.
They didn't see all the work that you were putting in. You prioritized that over leisurely stuff that most people do.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I really haven't, other than recently I watched The Queen's Gambit on Netflix.
That's a great show, by the way.
That's a great show, right? While
I like chess too. So
I do as well. I grew up playing chess. But I really don't watch any TV. It's only because I had surgery recently and I was recovering, and my wife's always trying to get me to watch something with her to relax a little bit. And I was like, oh, I heard about this Queen's Gambit show. Let's watch that. So we went through it. But otherwise, I don't watch much TV. And I'm not saying that I'm better than anybody else or that's better than anyone else, because probably my relationship with my wife would be better if I would sit down on the couch and watch some TV with her sometimes. And again, everything is a trade-off in life, whether we are working out, spending time with family, doing hobbies, watching TV. We just have to be honest about how we're spending our time.
Yep. I got two more quick things for you, and then I'll let you go because I know you got to run. In your chapter about comparison, I thought this is like really relevant to the times right now, because I think often we compare ourselves to other people. Social media has given us that that thing where we can compare ourselves to how other people are doing. And I love what you said about success is not a zero-sum game. There is an abundance of success available. So share what you mean by that statement and why it's so important for owning our life and career.
Yeah. I wrote a chapter on comparison because I know so many people struggle with this, because I have struggled with this a lot. Comparison has been around for generations. It's not just social media's fault, right? We've always been able to look at our neighbors and see they have a nicer car or a nicer house, or it seems like their marriage is better or their kids are better behaved or whatever. We've always been comparing ourselves. But social media heightens that, right? Because we see when people are getting the promotion or on a trip or doing fun things, and we're like, man, they're always doing fun stuff. And
especially the trips during like the health crisis when everybody's like stuck in their house. I'm like, God dang it.
How can you be so brazen? And I'm here being safe, right? And with your own values. So it's definitely heightened by, and one thing I always remind people is that you can't compare your whole life to someone else's highlight reel, and social media is the highlight reel. Like, you see the great pictures from the trip. You don't see the fights that they were having, right, over where to go and this and that. But the success thing is interesting too, because a lot of us are competitive. We're trying to achieve things. We see people achieving stuff. And, I see people almost actively rooting against others because of that comparison thing. We've got to remember, like you said, Brandon, that success is unlimited. There is an abundant amount of success and money in the world. It's not going to run out. And when someone else is successful, it doesn't really take anything away from you, with few exceptions, right? If you are going for a job at a company and you are competing against three other people and one of them gets it, you don't, then yes, there's a direct, competition there. But for most of the time, we're not actually competing with anybody. We're all in our own journey. And Brandon, if you find more success with your job, or let's say your podcast takes off, right, and has way more downloads than mine, that's not taking anything away from me or from mine, right?
No.
In fact, it might create more opportunities. And
yeah, there's a bigger market for you available.
There's a bigger market, right? And that tells, okay, a lot of people are listening to HR podcasts, so there's an opportunity to market in the HR space. But also, there's an opportunity for me to learn from you. So that's why I talk about, when you find people that are really successful, instead of getting angry about it, choose to be inspired. Brandon's achieving these great things with his podcast in the HR space. I wonder what I can learn from him. Can I build a relationship and even, get him as a mentor or something like that, so I can improve? And there are so many people out there doing great things that you may want to do. And instead of looking at them with disdain and being like, I can never be like them, or they're an overnight success or whatever, reach out, build a relationship, and see what you can learn from them. And they may be able to help you. Besides, you never know what else is going on. They may need help with some things too.
Okay, put a bow on this for us. So in challenging times like right now, what's one way, or maybe a couple ways, that somebody can own their career or life? Like something from your book or something that you just think about a lot. They're like, man, people would just do this one thing. They would just absolutely take control. What is that?
The biggest thing is making that shift from a victim mindset to an ownership mindset, from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset, which is one that, I take full responsibility for everything in life. Everything in life happens for me instead of to me. Everything is an opportunity. All challenges become opportunities, right? Because you cannot control everything that happens in life, but you can control your actions, how you react to things, your outlook, your mindset on stuff. And that is what's going to determine your happiness and your fulfillment in life. And there will be challenges that come up, right? COVID completely destroyed my business. So at the beginning of the pandemic, my whole business was selling and running in-person learning and development workshops. I was running leadership development workshops. I was flying all around the country, and COVID shut all of that down. I had to change everything, and but it allowed me to pivot and do different things, and also be home with my family every night. And I'll leave you with one more tip. This is from my book, that when challenging situations come up, I often recommend people ask 3 simple questions. Number 1, what's great about this? Because there are almost always silver linings with every challenge that come our way. I've always loved asking people throughout the pandemic, what are the silver linings? And oftentimes it's I've had more time for gardening or fitness or family that have been great. Number 2 question is, what can I learn from this? So there's a lesson in almost everything, especially when we have a failure or mistake. What can we learn to improve for next time? And number 3 is, what does this make possible? Because sometimes these challenges come up. Maybe you've been laid off or furloughed, or your job has changed, your company has taken your budget away, and it stinks. It's hard in the moment. But what does that make possible? Maybe there was something you were unhappy about with it in the past, and this creates a new opportunity for you to finally pursue that passion or that other career that you were thinking about. Or maybe it allows you to try something that you wouldn't have done before if things had stayed the same. You think about it, so many great things have happened in life because of something that seemed bad in the moment that then led to that great thing. And I've got tons of examples from my own life, and I know other people do as well. So think about your mindset, how you're approaching things in life. Are you taking responsibility and ownership for everything that goes on? Are you taking the initiative? Are you seeing things as opportunities and choosing to believe that everything in life happens for you? And are you willing and able to turn those challenges that come up into opportunities?
Andy Storch, your book is Own Your Career, Own Your Life, Stop Drifting and Take Control of Your Future. Man, it has been a pleasure to have you on this show. Where can people learn more about you, what you're up to, or anything that you want to point them to that would be helpful in their journey?
Brandon, thank you so much. I appreciate you having me. The book, again, like you said, Own Your Career, Own Your Life. It is available on Amazon. I've also created a companion journal to go along with the book with all of the stuff we talked about, prompts for everything. So you can write all this stuff down, as well as a 90-day guided with morning rituals and evening prompts so that you can track progress towards your goals. That's been so helpful for me along my journey. That's available on Amazon as well. I'm active on social media, LinkedIn and Instagram, of course, like we talked about. I've got a couple of podcasts, and I also have a free report for your listeners if they're interested of the top 5 most common career mistakes that people make. I have asked this of tons of people. I've surveyed my network and heard from so many people about the biggest career mistakes they made. And I put it into a report of the top 5. And you can go get that at ownyourcareerownyourlife.com/mistakes. That's ownyourcareerownyourlife.com/mistakes. Just put in your email and you can download that report. I'll also get you on my email list for updates on cool things going on with the book and everything we've got going on. But that's the best place to go.
Thanks, Andy. I appreciate it, man.
For sure. Thanks for having me on.